I'm Kate King, and today we're talking about apologies and forgiveness, why they're important and why they're also so hard. I'd like to start this video out with a Jewish Hasidic parable that I learned from listening to the psychologist Harriet Lerner, who I will talk about in more length at the end of the video. So in this story, there's a king and a prince, and the prince has done something really upsetting, and the king banishes him from the kingdom and says, never return. Years go by, and the king's heart softens toward his son, and he decides he wants to make things right. So he sends his soldiers to go find his son and to request that he return to the palace so that they can make things right. And the prince says, no, I am too bitter, I am still too hurt, I am not coming home. So the soldiers bring this sad news back to the king, and the king sends them back with a different message. This time, he asks the soldiers to tell his son, the prince, come as far as you can, and I will come the rest of the way to meet you. So this is really powerful because it talks about sort of the power and the beauty of action when it comes to apologies and forgiveness. You cannot just speak words and have it go the length that you need to really apologize to someone, and you cannot require or demand someone's forgiveness. Sometimes the most powerful thing that we can do when we feel remorse is to actually offer an action. And in this story, the king says, I don't care how far I have to travel, I'll go any distance to make this right with you because it matters that much to me. And that's how a genuine apology feels. You can feel it in your body, right? It's almost like a soul resonance. And I think we've all experienced the difference of an authentic apology versus something that feels sort of forced or obligatory, right? And that doesn't feel like a quality apology that really makes change. So I have a list here of a few of the things that can be the elements of a good apology. First of all, saying I'm sorry and really meaning it from the depths of your heart. I'm sorry I did that. The second quality is understanding that what I did was wrong or hurtful or cruel or in some way fostered a pain inside of you. And if you don't know what you did that was hurtful, this is the important place to ask for clarity and to say, I'm incredibly sorry that I hurt you and I don't understand what happened to create this pain. Please help me understand. The third aspect of a good apology is what can I do to make it right? Making sort of an effort or allowing them to see your willingness for repair is hugely important in a good apology. And lastly, it's important when you make an apology that you understand that forgiveness is not something that you require. Their forgiveness is independent of your apology. Sometimes it takes a while for forgiveness to grow and for the apology to really set in. So giving an apology without requiring the response of forgiveness is extremely important, and it takes off a lot of pressure for that person to just allow the apology to sink in. The Webster's Dictionary definition of an apology is a regretful acknowledgement of an offense or failure. So a lot of people don't even know exactly what an apology is. We're sort of taught when we're kids, say you're sorry, or go make things right. But truly, an apology comes from the depths of your heart with knowing that something within you wronged another person and feeling really authentic and true remorse for that and the intention to make things right. The words I'm sorry, they don't go very far unless you have that depth of understanding and acknowledgement that something went awry and you truly want to make it right. So there is a really positive thing that can come from apologizing, and this is sort of the rupture and repair process. So just like when we have an injury in our body, something like a torn ligament, and a doctor performs surgery and sews a graft into that place, making your knee or your shoulder stronger, that rupture provided an ability for there to be a repair that could be even stronger than before. And that's how apologies function too. If an apology comes from a true place in your heart, then a relationship can actually be enhanced, where when you say, help me understand how I hurt you, or how what I did was cruel, then you understand that person that you care about a little bit more. And when that person offers forgiveness, then they open their heart to you a bit more. And so through the act of apology and forgiveness, there can be a rupture and repair process that creates real bonding and strength in a relationship. And the key ingredient here is authenticity and genuineness when you offer that apology. So there are a lot of reasons why people resist apologies, why they don't want to offer apologies. I think a lot of them are functions of the ego. Either we're too proud or stubborn, we don't want to admit we're wrong, we don't think we did anything wrong, we're having a hard time seeing something from another person's point of view. And all of these things are barriers in that rupture and repair process. So if an apology needs to happen, even if you're not sure exactly why or how, but you want to make things right, it's important that you make a good assessment of the way that your ego is involved with this apology process, and try to reach a place of humility where you realize that you don't have to necessarily be wrong and that person be right in order to offer an apology. The apology can basically just be for the pain that was caused or the misunderstanding that occurred. And when you access a place of humility and you apologize from that open-hearted and humble place, then you allow the ego to fall away and the humanity between the two people who really care about each other to shine through. So now I'm going to talk a bit about forgiveness. So the definition in the Webster's Dictionary of forgiveness is an action or process of forgiving. And forgive is to stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. And I think, as you know, forgiveness is sometimes an easy thing and it's sometimes a hard thing, right? When someone walks in front of you on the sidewalk and they say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's easy to say, it's okay, no problem, and to really mean it, right? Whereas when someone hurts you in a deeper, more profound way that feels like it creates a scar or a memory that's traumatic, that kind of forgiveness is hard to come by. And it's also incredibly important, because the big element of forgiveness is that when you forgive another person, you allow yourself to stop carrying the energy that you have been harboring in resentment or hatred or anger toward that person, which ultimately hurts you. So forgiveness, although it can provide relief for another person, it ultimately returns to the self by allowing you to stop carrying the burden of that resentment, and that's huge. So this is how forgiveness can be healing for both yourself and for other people. Another really crucial element of forgiveness is what I like to call mirror theory. And I do have a video on mirror theory that you can check out and go back and learn a little bit more about. And essentially this theory is that everything that lives in me also lives in you. And everything that I see in you also lives in me. And so forgiveness for another person's flaws or faults or hurtful behavior is really crucial in understanding that I'm also capable of hurting other people, and I have before. And so the humanity in me can see the humanity in you and have compassion and understanding for that, with forgiveness, knowing that we are people and we make mistakes, and making amends for the mistakes that we make is incredibly important for moving forward in our relationships. And so being able to see that other person as a fellow human who struggles and who messes up and who goes through periods of life that are really hard can help you when you're creating the kind of back and forth in relationships that is filled with empathy and compassion and love for your fellow humankind. And just like with apologizing, there are a lot of reasons why we resist forgiveness, right? Sometimes holding on to a grudge makes us feel like we're righteous, or it's a function of that ego where we don't want to admit that maybe we can forgive, or maybe we do want repair with this person. Sometimes forgiveness is a way for us to feel like we're in control because what this other person did was so hurtful and so painful that we don't know how to trust them again. So it's important that we realize with forgiveness that by offering someone forgiveness, you're not condoning the action that was offensive or hurtful to begin with. It doesn't make it okay what they did. It simply releases yourself from carrying it any longer. And so it's okay with your forgiveness that you offer a kind of boundary or even an education to this person who's apologizing so that they understand that what they did was so harmful that perhaps you have to give a little bit of time and space in the relationship for the trust to be rebuilt. Or maybe this is an indication that new boundaries need to be set in the relationship for safety or for comfort. And even though the offense itself was incredibly hurtful, you choose within yourself not to carry that energy and not to continue to project that energy onto the other person. So this is how you can offer forgiveness without making it okay what was done. And it doesn't mean that forgiveness says, that's fine, no worries, we'll just return to how we were before. No. Sometimes forgiveness is more like, okay, I choose to not carry this anymore. I choose to not project resentment toward you anymore. And this is the way things need to look differently moving forward. So forgiveness can be a really sort of functional and intuitive kind of process of rebuilding, where that rupture and repair that happens with hurt and apology can actually foster new growth. And the relationship can have sort of a new foundation to sit on that works better and perhaps prevents the same kind of hurt from happening again. All right, so now I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about a wonderful relationship psychologist named Harriet Lerner. She is the psychologist who I first heard that Hebrew parable from, that I shared with you in the beginning. So Dr. Lerner wrote several really wonderful books. I recommend them highly. They're for relationships, for anger, for apologizing. She also was interviewed in a great podcast with Brene Brown on the Unlocking Us podcast that I would recommend. And she just has a really beautiful way of kind of explaining the way that apologizing and forgiveness is both important and also really difficult, and how offering this kind of healing to ourselves and others can be really beneficial in our lives so that we can have kind of forward movement in our relationships and we don't have to feel stuck and we don't have to carry this resentment with us everywhere we go. So I hope you check out her books. All right, you guys, that's it for today. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time.